Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2022 drama, The Fabelmans. Now, before we go any further sharing my thoughts on this film, I want to give a special shout out to Brian for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will be in the video description down below, and I'll try to get to it as soon as I possibly can. Now, The Fabelmans is a film that got a lot of Oscar buzz when it came out in 2022, and it has been nominated for multiple Oscars. And I can understand why. From a technical standpoint, this film is tremendous. I will admit that visually, this film has some of the best direction that I saw from the entire year of 2022, as well as cinematography. But narrative wise, and also when it comes to the performances of the entire cast, I really don't get it. I don't understand why this film is getting so much praise. I know it's one of those things where, different opinions and all, and I'm very understanding of that, and I appreciate the fact that people are out there and they have different opinions, and that's what keeps this world interesting. But I just don't get the massive amount of praise that this film is getting, because to me personally, once you get past the visuals, it's a very generic teen drama. Really, it's like a flashy full-length episode of the Wonder Years. It has that sort of vibe. And with the teen coming of age stuff, the teen drama, the stuff involving the family, and the dynamic with that, and so on and so forth. And I know other critics have pointed this out, that the film definitely felt very episodic, and that's another reason why it feels like it's an episode or multiple episodes of the Wonder Years stitched together. And it's a shame, because there are things about this film that I absolutely adored, and and I'm really glad that I watched this film at least once, just to see these elements, just to see these things unfold and play out in front of my eyes. For one, I think Spielberg's direction is incredible. I think it truly is a feat of filmmaking. You can tell that his passion was there when it comes to recreating a lot of his childhood films, and his love for cinema, and the family dynamic that occurred when he was young, as well as the different sort of trials and tribulations that he faced as a teenager. Like, you can really feel that. That's why the stuff with Sam is really where the film comes alive. That's where you have that Spielberg magic again, is when the film is focusing on Sam and his growing love for film, and how he copes emotionally through film and through making films, and how much all of that means to him, and how that leads to him creating friendships and building connections with other people through the process of making movies. And that's the heart of this film. That's where this film shines. And it's a shame that such a well shot film with some genuinely great aspects of it is saddled with such mediocre storytelling and characterization. Now, the film is directed by Steven Spielberg, of course, and yeah, I cannot sing enough praises for Spielberg's work in this. If he wins the Oscar for Best Director for what he did in this film, because I think he might have gotten nominated, and I'm not 100% sure, but he definitely should have been. And if he wins Best Director, he deserved it. He deserves it because this is some of the best direction you will see, not only out of any film in 2022, but out of any film in like the past 5 years. Like it's a really finely crafted film from a visual standpoint. There are so many shots in this that are just absolutely gorgeous and breathtaking and awe-inspiring. Like the whole scene with young Sam, where he's watching his train movie inside while it's being projected on his hands. Like the way that scene is shot and photographed is brilliant. It's beautiful, and the sequence where Mitzi is dancing in front of the headlights, and there's just a lot of sequences in this film that are just shot in a way that's very loving and very special, and just really does feel like Spielberg got up for this. You know, he didn't kind of half-ass it. No, he got up for it. And I've read things that he actually cried numerous times and had a lot of emotional moments on the set of the movie because of just how much it was deeply connected to who he is as a director and as a person. And that really does come across with the direction of the film. It's a tour de force for a tremendous filmmaker and one of the best filmmakers of honestly any generation. And if this is his swan song, it's one hell of a way to go out. Now, Spielberg also wrote the film alongside Tony Kushner, or Kushner, could have messed up there with the last name. But I don't know how much of this script is solely Spielberg's versus how much of it is Tony's. Here's the thing about this script. When it is focusing on Sam Fabelman and his journey through childhood all the way to adulthood through the lens of a camera and through making movies, that is where the film is truly something unique, let alone captivating. It really is. The stuff with Sam, when he's making these movies, when he's editing them together, when he's doing all of this, even from the opening sequence when he was a kid and he went to his first movie, The Greatest Show on Earth, and saw the train sequence, and it shocked him and took him out of his comfort zone, but it also led to him feeling like he needs to recreate it and he needs to see it again in order to really let it sink in terms of what he saw. And there is something so pure when it comes to those moments in the script. But there's so many other things with this screenplay that don't come across as pure. They come across as forced. They come across as inauthentic. Or they come across as just total fabrication. I mean, it's almost like Spielberg tried a little too hard to make his home life more interesting. Because it really did feel like that's one of those instances where his home life as a budding filmmaker, making fun little movies with his siblings, and then shooting student films or shooting short films for his, Boy Scout troop and stuff, and senior skip day movies. Like, that's not enough. You have to have the family drama with Mitzi and Bert, and Mitzi and her whole issues, and the adultery, and the divorce, and Mitzi's battle with mental illness, and Sam's struggle with connecting with his father, and all of this other stuff. And I know that it might be coming from a very personal place in Spielberg's heart because it's connected to his life and his experiences. But it felt like he just had to put too much of a typical Spielberg lens on these moments that it comes across as fabricated. It doesn't feel as real and as genuine as the scenes involving Sam and his passion for filmmaking. And that's why I really feel that this film would have been immensely better and more effective in my eyes if it wasn't The Fabelmans. It was The Fablemen. It was a film that was strictly focused on Sam Fabelman and how he's introduced to film and how he starts his filmmaking journey in terms of learning how to shoot film and edit it and make his own movies. And every now and then you'll get a little bit from his parents and his siblings. You'll have some stuff involving him and, you know, his first love as a teenager and some of these other sort of dramatic moments in his life. But you'll dedicate a large chunk of the movie to him actually going to Hollywood, him actually working on his first major production, him doing his first film, him reacting to the reception that he receives for that film, and then him continuing to evolve as a filmmaker and grow as a person. And you see him rise to newfound heights of success. And then you see how he handles that. And then you see how he handles failure when he has his first flop and he has his first film that doesn't get critical acclaim. And then you see other things that happen with his family and his own kids and so on and so forth. It just felt like for a film that's almost 3 hours long, it told half the story. And it left out a good chunk of the story that would just be far more interesting and far more captivating and compelling than the typical teen drama stuff with him and his first love who doesn't want to commit to a relationship because of the fact that, you know, it's just too early. She just can't do it. Yeah, Monica. And everything that happens with that. Sam and the bullies that he's dealing with in school when they move to California. And the stuff with Sam's parents and the secrets that are revealed and so on and so forth. And that just wasn't as interesting to me as something as pure as just Sam's love for film. And when you have scenes where Mitzi buys a monkey and you have lines of dialogue talking about monkey business and all of a sudden, that's another thing that feels very inauthentic and just very strained. And I don't really get why a lot of that is in the movie. Like maybe there's some kind of subtext there because, you know, she calls the monkey Benny because she misses Benny and misses his company, and she always could laugh at monkeys at the zoo, so this is her way of coping with what's happening in her life. But it just comes across so ridiculous and silly and hard to take seriously. And there are quite a few moments like that. Like the script makes this big deal about Mitzi and her realizing the error of her ways when it comes to her cheating on her husband with her husband's best friend Benny, and she breaks down and cries and talks to her son about it after her son reveals to her that he knows by showing her some footage that he filmed conveniently at a barbecue or a camping trip that showcases this adultery going on. And she has this moment where she breaks down and shows that she has some weaknesses, but then she says she's going to commit to being uh with Sam's father for the sake of the family and so on and so forth. And then she just completely ultimately flips, and she gets the divorce and goes and moves and gets together with Benny. And it just felt like, okay, so we spent a good chunk of the running time focusing on this drama and the script trying to make you sympathize with Mitzi when it comes to what happened and the fallout of her decision and her having to live with that and live with the guilt. And then all of that's essentially thrown aside because she just decides, well, I'm not going to deal with it. I'm not going to live with it. I'm going to go move in with Benny and the Jets, and that's it. And I'm just like, why waste the audience's time with that? Just have more scenes of Sam shooting films with his friends or building friendships with other people at the high school, or more stuff with him and his new girlfriend. Like, we don't need that then. If all it's going to amount to is, I changed my mind. Bye. Too bad, so sad. We're getting a divorce. And I know that is something that does happen in family dynamics and in family relationships and in real life. But just the way that it's written, it just feels forced. And that's why I just feel like just having like the last hour of the movie just be dedicated to Sam rising up in Hollywood and having moments where he falls and he's criticized, and then seeing him rise again after that and being better than ever. Like, that would just be more interesting and more compelling to me because I care about Sam. The script does a really good job making you care about Sam and what happens to him and how his career takes off and how it unfolds. Like, you really do care about Sam. I don't care about his parents. I don't care nearly as much as about his parents. And it doesn't help either that a lot of the focus is on Mitzi, and she doesn't come across as sympathetic as the writers feel she is because of the fact that, I mean, for fuck's sake, she cheated on her husband with his best friend. And then on top of that, the way that it writes Bert, the father, isn't much better. Like, he just comes across as a very one-note character who's either encouraging to his son and speaks to him in a very sing-songy kindergarten school manner, or he's very hard on him. There's no middle ground. And it also seems to be really kind of slanted in a negative way when it comes to other aspects of Bert and other sequences involving him and his wife or his interactions with his kids. And really, a lot of that animosity should honestly be slanted more towards the wife because she's the one that cheated on him. So yeah, I just don't feel this script is as good of a fable as it really could have been. And it's a shame because it starts off interestingly enough, but then even then, like in the first hour, that things just happen that just are off. Like the scene where Mitzi takes the kids to go see a tornado. They realize there's a tornado that's touched down, And so Mitzi decides to do this spur of the moment thing and take all her kids and put them in the car and go looking for the tornado. And if that's based on a real story in Spielberg's life, okay. But it's too jarring in tone and to really feel like something that does come across as authentic. It comes across like it's just some randomness that they throw in there to keep your interest, to show how quirky the mom is. And that's another aspect of the script I did not care for. The quirkiness of the mother, Mitzi, because it also came across as incredibly forced. I didn't buy and it made the character even more unlikable because she came across as this tryhard. Where it's like, look at me, I'm silly and I'm an adult, but I act like I'm a kid, and it wasn't endearing to me. It was annoying. But like I said, the stuff with Sam and him learning how to shoot films and showing these finished films to his friends and his family, and then him going on to meet the legendary John Ford in a really great scene at the end of the film when he meets John Ford. That stuff it's special. It's movie magic from Spielberg. But the other stuff, no. Like I said, it's sitcom level storytelling. It really is. It doesn't help the pacing of the movie either, because the film really drags. An hour and a half goes by and you're moderately intrigued because you're connected with Sam and his character and what happens next in his life, and you want to see what movie he creates next. But an hour and a half goes by and it feels like 3 hours because there are things that happen, but it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of things that are happening that really resonate that deeply with you. Like there's a lot of stuff that happens, but it's still just really not something that you connect with as strongly. And so it just feels like things are happening, but there isn't that tight connection that really makes a film feel like it's got a tighter pace despite the runtime. It doesn't help either that it's jumping in a very episodic way from one sequence to the next or one setting to the next. Now, the film also features, in my opinion, a very mixed bag of a cast. And it's fitting for a film that, to me personally, is a mixed bag of quality. So, you've got Gabriel LaBelle, who plays Sammy Fabelman, the grown-up teen Sammy, because Mateo Zorin, Francis DeFord, plays young Sammy. And both of these performers do really good jobs, but Gabriel LaBelle is the biggest standout. Gabriel LaBelle was amazing. I thought his performance as Sam was one of the best I've seen from a young actor in a long time. This is an actor that I'm going to keep an eye on because he was that good in this film and in that role. I thought it was such a really great performance with a lot of different layers to it, a lot of moments where he really shined. He had a really great screen presence. He had a lot of charisma and personality. You were drawn to him. You liked watching him on the screen. He had this personable nature to him that was just very warm, and it also felt like it was very relatable, especially to me where I was bullied in high school. So I definitely connected with him on that front, and I was an outcast, and I absolutely sympathize with him when it comes to that part of his story. And despite how generic and kind of been there, done that as some of the teen drama stuff was in California, I still connected with it. I still cared about it enough because of this character, and in large part because of this performance. This performance was terrific, and I highly recommend this film to anybody, not just for Spielberg's direction and the cinematography, but for Gabriel LaBelle. Like, it's worth a watch just for Gabriel LaBelle and his performance, his standout performance, his breakout role as Sammy Fabelman. Now, Michelle Williams, she's gotten a lot of Oscar buzz, a lot of people praising her performance. I thought her performance was awful. I know there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna push back at me for this, but I thought her performance was terrible for the most part. I mean, there were a couple moments where it was serviceable, I guess, when she's breaking down emotionally, but there are a lot of scenes in this where it feels like Spielberg asked her to imitate Lucille Ball or some other actress of yesteryear, and the results are honestly pretty cringe-inducing at times to watch. To watch this adult, capable actress just make a total fool out of herself for over 2 hours. And it doesn't help either that she played a character that I never really connected with or never really cared about, and honestly grew to despise as the film went on. So that definitely didn't do her any favors. But I mean, what was this performance? And Spielberg is normally a guy who can get very authentic performances out of his cast. And I don't know what happened here. This didn't feel authentic in the slightest. And Paul Dano wasn't much better as Bert Fabelman. I know he's based on Spielberg's father, Arnold, and Mitzi is based on Leah, Spielberg's actual mother. And I don't know if Spielberg's mother was always this try-hard kooky or whatever, but even if that is the case, there's a way to play that on the screen that actually is charming, that actually is funny, and doesn't come across as just a bad comedy routine. And that's how I felt about Michelle Williams in this as Mitzi. And with Paul Dano, that's another instance of just a very inauthentic performance. And I don't know if it was just a case of bad casting or what. Like, Paul Dano and Michelle Williams, they had no chemistry with one another. You didn't buy that they were a couple. You didn't buy that they actually genuinely loved each other. So when the divorce happens, it doesn't really have as much of an impact as it would have if you actually bought it. If you actually bought the compassion and the love and the relationship that they had. The only emotional weight it has is because of Sam's reaction to everything, or the other kids' reactions to the divorce. But prior to that, like, you couldn't tell because the two performers had zero chemistry. And Paul Dano, like, this performance was really bad. Like, this is honestly one of the worst performances of his career, because so much of his performance is a young actor, because he was quite young. He's quite young. He's not an older, established, veteran actor by any means. So it really does come across as like a young actor playing dress up, trying to be dad for a little game of house, and being overly theatrical with his dialogue, just like Michelle Williams. And I don't know, maybe that's the point. It's to have these performers act overly theatrical like it's an old movie, but that doesn't play out that well, because especially in contrast to what LaBelle brings to his performance as Sam. That doesn't his performance isn't overly theatrical. His performance feels very natural. And then Michelle Williams and Paul Dano are over here acting like they're starring in the first talkies. You know, it's just very jarring. And Paul Dano, yeah, it's a very sing-songy performance, or when it's not, it just does come across like he's acting like he's a teacher. Hey, students, I want you to listen to me really carefully. Today's assignment is about photosynthesis. You know, almost every line of dialogue that he has in this film is like that. So it's just, it comes across as a very forced and bad performance. At least in my eyes. I didn't buy it, and it really took me out of the film. Now the other actors, the other actresses in the cast, other than maybe Seth Rogen, who I just thought was annoying and obnoxious, and it doesn't help either that he willingly goes along with this relationship with the married woman. So that doesn't help him at all. But I mean, he was supposed to be unlikable, so I guess it kind of worked. But Seth Rogen, it's Seth Rogen. So that I think casting him, I get what Spielberg was going for, but Seth Rogen is just still doing his Seth Rogen shtick, but in a serious drama, and it just doesn't work for me. But Julia Butters as Regina Fabelman, the younger sister, I thought she was really good. So good I wanted to see more of her story, more of what's happening with her, and the way her connection with her brother changes throughout the years. Less of the stuff with Paul Dano and Michelle Williams, like the scene where she is crying after she realizes that her parents are divorcing, is honestly some really authentic, amazing acting. Judd Hirsch has a nice cameo as Boris, Sammy's granduncle, and has some of the best lines of dialogue in the movie. Um, you have some other performers like Jenny Berlin as Hadassah Fabelman, Bert's mom, and Robin Bartlett as Tina, Mitzi's mother. But like those two, that's another aspect of the film that just feels like there really isn't much there. Like there's this whole scene about Mitzi's mom dying, and it's supposed to be this big, grand, emotional crescendo, and we barely even knew anything about this mother character other than the fact that she was Mitzi's mom. And that led to these performers, due to the fact that they had bones to work with, not really delivering a performance that is at all memorable. The other teens delivered more memorable performances when it comes to the other siblings or the other people who were a part of the California high school series of scenes that essentially culminate the film. You know, Oaks Fegley is Chad, Sam Rechner is Logan Hall, in particular Sam Rechner. Chloe East is Monica. Um, Isabel Kuzman is Claudia, and a few other people. Like even some of the kids who were friends with Sam in Arizona, like Gustavo Escobar and Nicholas Cantu and Cooper Dodson or Gabriel Bateman, and of course David Lynch, who has a scene-stealing performance as John Ford. Just a really, really great performance by David Lynch. So, yeah, I mean, Gabriel LaBelle makes the film worth it, and he does his best to carry the film, and that's the thing. It's not like he's not the focus of the story, because for the most part he is, but there are too many times where the film deviates from the focus on Sam and starts focusing on other things around him and in his life. And I understand why it's doing that, to try to make a deeper connection with Sam and his whole family, but I just feel they're trying to do too much. And yeah, it does feel like, since Sam and Gabriel is so good, you just want to see more of Gabriel. You want to see him tackle uh more scenes when it comes to him rising in Hollywood and becoming an established director and having that moment in his career that ties into what happened in Spielberg's own life. And it just feels like there's just so much that's just left on the floor when it comes to the script, when it comes to this story. But yeah, it's a well shot film too. I mean, the cinematography by Janusz Kaminski, who is a longtime collaborator of Spielberg's, is incredible. He's one of the best cinematographers working today, and this film is no exception. I mean, the way that it works with lighting, and the way that it works with shadow, and the way that it works with, the setting, various different settings and locations in the film, the way that it deals with these sequences of making these short movies, as well as showing these short movies in a darkened theater and all of that. It's just a really nice looking film. It really has a really great look to it. And of course, Janusz, because of his long time connection with Spielberg, just works so well with Steven and what Steven wants when it comes to uh, the film visually. They are definitely an incredible pair. And so is Michael Kahn, who edited the film alongside Sarah Brochar. And Michael Kahn's another longtime collaborator of Spielberg's. And, that connection, that vibe that these people have with Steven really does help this film reach a higher level than it probably would not have otherwise when it comes to the technical aspects of the production. I mean, John Williams, there's another collaborator who did the music. I will say this, I know John Williams got nominated for an Oscar for the score here. A lot of the music here just kind of sounds the same. There really isn't a new note or a new piece of music that really makes me go, "Wow, what a new, fresh, awesome composition by John Williams that's on par with some of his earlier and more well-renowned work." And it just feels like there are echoes of his past and echoes of successful, memorable scores, but not really, the full symphony. Not the full orchestra, not the full piece that really sticks with you. So the score is fine and it fits the film well when it comes to the tone of the movie, but it doesn't really stick with you like other John Williams scores do. And it is a film that definitely does suffer when it comes to its running time. It's 151 minutes, and it doesn't really feel like it needs to be that way. Like, if you had the whole second half being about Sam's rise in Hollywood and him dealing with the trials and tribulations of being a new hotshot Hollywood director, and him dealing with the pressure of being the next Hitchcock or the next John Ford, that I think would benefit a more epic runtime. But the way that this film is set up, no, it doesn't benefit from the longer runtime. It honestly is a detriment to the film. But anyway, I don't really know what else to say about The Fabelmans. I've talked about this film for probably, according to some people, forever. But I had a lot of things to talk about it. I had a lot of things to say about it. So, yeah, thanks for watching my review. And as always, I'll see you later. See ya.